are the top wide receivers in the NFL today? In this video, I rank my top 32 wide receivers in the NFL right now. The thing is with the wide receiver position, I just ranked my running back list, the top 32 running backs, and I thought the running back position was hard. The wide receiver position is even more difficult. There is much more depth at this position. There are so many different kind of wide receivers in the NFL today. There are so many different schemes that it makes it very difficult to rank the very best at the position. There are slot receivers, guys that only play in the slot, guys that only play on the outside, guys that do a little bit of everything, guys that can go deep, but they're not great intermediate or short. There are guys that are great short and intermediate, but they can't go deep. So how exactly do I balance this list? Before I give you my top 32 wide receivers in football today, make sure that you do spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. Let me know in the comment section who you believe the top receivers in the game are. If you want to list your 1 to 32, your 32 to 1, or if you just want to give me your top 10, let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know what you thought of my ranking of your favorite team's wide receivers. This is just my opinion. I want to hear your opinion in the comment section below. Not only have I ranked the best receivers in the game from 32 to 1, but I've also provided you with tiers. These guys in the same tier are about the same level. They're kind of interchangeable, especially at the receiver position. The tiers are as follows. The young guns tier, these are wide receivers that are very young, as stated, within 1 or 2, maybe 3 years of their career. They're just starting to become very good, and they're really making a name for themselves in the NFL right now, but they don't really have the experience or longevity to put them any higher on the list. The next tier is the very good receivers. In this tier, there are a lot of different kind of receivers, mostly slot type of receivers that are very tough, great in the short and intermediate, but they're not exactly game breakers. At the nearly elite level, these guys have not been as elite for as long as the guys in the top 7, but they're very good players. With a little bit more time or one breakout huge season, they could be in that superstar tier, which is the next tier. Tier number 2 is the superstar tier. These guys are any given day, any given Sunday, the best receiver in the NFL, but they're just slightly below the top 3, who are the very best, and they separate from the rest of the league. They're very unique in their skill set, and they are the game breakers. These guys are nearly unstoppable. You have to double team them on every snap, every down, every big play. These are the very best in the sport. Kicking off my top 32 wide receivers in the NFL today, going into the 2020 season, the young guns tier is kicked off with a receiver that I think has top 20 talent, but he has failed to be consistent because of injury. That is Will Fuller at number 32. Will Fuller, when he is on the field, he is a game-breaking receiver. This guy is a game changer. He has the speed to really in the back of a defensive back's and corner's mind. I gotta backpedal really quickly or this guy's just gonna fly by me down the field. He has the ball skills to make a play in double coverage, in contested situations. He's a really crafty downfield route runner, and that combination of his height, his speed, and his hands are really difficult for any corner in football to handle. That makes him one of the 32 best in the game. The thing that is holding him back is the consistency, is the injuries, is the lack of I want to see this guy on the field for a full season so he could put together a full 16 game production. And now he's going to be asked to elevate his game, not only from a health perspective, but from an on-field product. He's going to be asked to be the number 1 for Deshaun Watson now that DeAndre Hopkins is gone. He certainly has the talent to do so. The question is, can he be consistent? I understand they brought in Brandon Cooks. Will Fuller is that guy for me. He is the true game changer on the Texans offense that I believe will be that number 1 option. And now that he has more targets, more looks down the field, more attention from his quarterback, he is really going to showcase that ability. At the number 31 spot on the countdown is Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is just a very solid all-around receiver. I don't think there's anything that he particularly does that separates his skill set. He has really nice hands. He's a good route runner inside, especially when it comes to playing in the slot position, which is where the majority of his snaps come. But I think last season we saw that Tyler Boyd not only can be a very solid number 2 option for an offense, but he can also provide you with number 1 type production without AJ Green there. He stepped up his game. He made plays, whether that was in contested situations, in the red zone, over the middle on a 3rd down, separating from a defensive back. He's a really good player. He's just not a special athlete, which is probably why he's not higher on this list. At number 30, this guy's pretty raw. He is a rookie going into his 2nd season, but he showcased his rare attributes with the San Francisco 49ers. DEEBO Samuel is my number 30 wide receiver, and this guy was a perfect complement to what Kyle Shanahan was looking for in his slot position. This guy was learning under the GOAT, in my opinion, from the slot, Wes Welker in San Francisco, and he took his game to the next level from a route running perspective. Every game you saw him get better. He was separating from DBs more and more. He was relied on more and more, and it just felt like he was a bigger game changer, just a little bit here and there, every single game, getting a little bit more detail in his game, and that is scary going into year 2 with the 49ers. He could be that second to George Kittle's number 1. He was last year even over an Emmanuel Sanders, who's a veteran in this game. DEEBO Samuel is electric with the ball in his hands. He's like a running back with the ball. He runs you over. He stiff arms you to the ground. He is dangerous in the screen game. If he can get a little bit better as a true number 1 on the outside, I'll probably give him more credit and push him up this list next year. But so far, so good for the young wide receiver. At number 29, the Tennessee Titans rookie sensation, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, just like DEEBO Samuel, provided his team as a rookie with something that they were missing. A.J. Brown was that downfield, stretch the field playmaker for the Titans last year, and a major, massive reason that this team was able to make some noise down the stretch of the season. Brown was absolutely game-changing with his huge plays, his huge frame. This guy is ridiculously big. I mean, he looks like a linebacker with the speed of a receiver. He's not the most refined route runner. He is basically going to run 3 to 4 routes all game, but can you stop him on those? Because he's so physically imposing with his ability to get inside a corner, his huge wingspan, and his great speed. A.J. Brown is a physical force, and you're going to be in for a long day if you're not willing to go toe-to-toe with this beast of a wide receiver. A.J. Brown is young. If he gets just a little bit better from a route running wide receiver perspective, he could be one of the 10 best receivers in the game because that size and speed is a very rare gift. At number 28, the number 2 to Amari Cooper's number 1 in Dallas, that is Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup, unlike a DEEBO Samuel or an A.J. Brown, he is more refined as a route runner. I don't think he's as physically gifted as an A.J. Brown, but this guy, don't sleep on him, has great speed down the field as well, and it was primarily utilized as a downfield option for Dak Prescott. But he also showed you this year that he can do more in the intermediate level, whether it's an in route, a comeback, a curl, whatever it is. Michael Gallup can stop on a dime with that great speed and quickness and be able to run routes very well. And I think him paired with Amari Cooper is a problem because these two guys have that great ability to shift in speed and acceleration very quickly, stop and go wherever they want to on a football field. And for Dak, those are two awesome route running options. Michael Gallup impressed me also with his ability to be more physical this year as a receiver, his ability to go up and snatch it in the air when he needed to. I think as a rookie, you saw he was a little bit soft in that department, but he definitely got better, and I think he's only getting better, and his stats certainly looked really good when he did play. This is a guy that a lot of people are probably sleeping on going into next year because he didn't necessarily play all the games and you weren't able to see him every game, every snap. And if you saw those 16 game totals, you'd be like, whoa, this guy's really good. But we'll see this year. As the number 2, number 3 potentially in this offense, it's going to be difficult for him to put up those upper echelon numbers. But in terms of a talent at the wide receiver position, Gallup is really, really good. At number 27, another rookie receiver, DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. In the draft, I have no idea why this guy fell so far to the point where Seattle was like, you know what would be pretty cool for us to get not only a really fast guy in Tyler Lockett, but let's put on the other side a absolute giant who can run super fast on the opposite side. DK Metcalf. These type of specimens don't just show up in the second round very often. And for him to fall to Seattle, to perhaps the best deep ball passer in the NFL in Russell Wilson, you couldn't have asked for a better landing spot. And DK took full advantage. He worked really hard to get his game to a level that was going to help the Seahawks offensively. And this offense has completely changed my outlook, my thought about what Seattle is as an offensive team. Now they have that number 2 legit option in their passing game. And potentially down the road, I do believe that you could see Metcalf become the 1 as quickly as this year, because he is just so, again, just like his teammate AJ Brown, he's so physically imposing, big, the size, the speed is off the charts, and he has even more of that than Brown does. It's crazy that you have to match up with this as a cornerback. And yes, he's not the quickest side to side. He's not the most refined as a pure route runner, but that's not what he's asked to be. And when you're a coach, you need to ask him to do things that he is very good at. And that's running straight. That's running a slant. Maybe that's catching a screen, but he is going to be able to, in the open field, be very dangerous because it's hard to tackle this guy, and he's very fast, so you need to be aware of that on every snap. DK Metcalf also impressed even in the playoffs down the stretch, making huge plays versus the Eagles in that wild card game, making just improvement every week as a rookie. DK is going to be a problem going into next year. At number 26, Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. Sutton may be higher for some other people, but let me explain why he's a little bit lower on my list. Then again, he had an amazing season last year. I think he probably has a higher floor than some of these other young gun receivers in this tier, but I think he has a lower ceiling. And the reason being is because he's not quite as fast. He's not quite the downfield guy in terms of he's just going to blow by you like a DK Metcalf. But where he's better than these guys is he's incredible in contested situations, whether it's one-on-one or in double coverage. Sutton finds a way to make an incredible grab routinely, which is very difficult to do. He reminds me a little bit of Kenny Golladay or an Alshon Jeffrey in that regard, where that is what stands out to me. And he's going to be able to, in the red zone, on third down, when you need a big play, to make a catch that might be nearly impossible, but Sutton will find a way to make that catch. But he's not the best route runner in the world. He's getting better. I definitely noticed that last year. And he's not the physically fastest, so he's not great in open field to make yards after the catch. But that's not what his game is, again, but he's very good at where his skills lie. Number 25, DJ CHARK of the Jacksonville Jags. Just like DK, Brown, all these guys I'm discussing, he has the speed, he has the size, he has the height, he has the hands, he has the contested ability, everything that it takes to be a top 10 receiver. It just seems like more of these guys that are built in like the Julio Jones kind of realm are coming out from the draft lately. And CHARK is one of those guys. He has brilliant speed. He has really good ability in the open field due to that speed, but he also, more than even a DK, I think he has the ability to stop and start. He's maybe not as purely straight line fast as DK Metcalf, but he has a better ability of acceleration and agility, which I think makes him more dangerous in the open field. And he's a little bit more refined as a route runner, being that he has a year on Metcalf in the NFL. He really proved this year that he could be the number one option for Jacksonville. A lot of people sleeping on him right now because he plays for Jacksonville. But you'll see weekly that he takes on the top corners on the opposing teams, and he makes plays down the field. And he makes huge chunk plays for Minshew of all quarterbacks. So definitely don't sleep on CHARK. He is an animal, another guy with all the skills to be absolutely phenomenal in this league. At number 24, Terry McLaurin, also known as AKA Scary Terry of the Washington Redskins. To me, the brightest young receiver in football right now is Terry McLaurin of the Redskins. When you watch him, he just has it seems like brain of a veteran receiver. He has the route running down. The craft seems to be what he's all about, and that is something that speaks to a very, very good, bright future for a receiver. A lot like Michael Thomas, as you saw in his rookie or second season, this guy just stood out because he seemed above or beyond his years. And that to me is what stands out about Terry McLaurin. Not only does he have the Scary Terry speed, but he also has the route running ability. And he's playing on an offense that he's really the only option. So yes, he's going to see more targets than other players, but he's the guy that's going to get double teams. He's the guy that's going to get the Stephon Gilmores of the world weekly, and he's going to have to show up and make plays. Not only could he make them down the field, he could make them after the catch. He could make a big play in a possession sort of situation where he's in between two defenders. He really didn't have a weakness when I saw his tape. He's just not quite consistent level experience. He's just not there yet, but he definitely, if he has another 1,000-yard season, he'll probably pop into the top 20 for sure next year. Number 23, going into the very good tier, is T.Y. Hilton of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, T.Y., I've been a huge fan of over the course of his career, but he definitely, there's no doubt about it, took a step back last season. He just wasn't really the same guy. I think part of it was Andrew Luck not being there. I think part of it was his role changing with the Colts. He became more of a short to intermediate option, with Jacoby Brissett being the starting quarterback for a majority of the season. He really had to play a different role, which I give Hilton a lot of credit for. And then the last thing is injuries. And I think T.Y. Hilton gets a little bit too much slack for injuries than he really should, because he actually has been fairly consistently on the field for the Colts. He's played through a lot of injury. He's shown his toughness. But yes, last year he missed some games, so it hurt his statistics, it hurt his on-field production, but the whole transfer of quarterbacks, that definitely has to be taken into account. Plus, T.Y. is getting a little bit older, so I also maybe ranked him a little bit lower because of that, because maybe his best days are behind him. But T.Y., I think what I saw from him is a little bit of what we saw from like Larry Fitzgerald maybe like 5 to 6 years ago, where he was willing to move from an outside option to an inside option, a slot option. And with T.Y., when you look back at his tape from this season, he actually wasn't the downfield threat that we are accustomed to. Although he would do that, he more regularly was the quick route runner on the inside, because the Colts really didn't have that. So in order for their offense to succeed, Hilton had to play a different role entirely, which I give him a lot of credit for that, because he's never been known for that. Hopefully next year, he's willing to go back to more of what he's good at, but also add that into his game. If Hilton can do that, along with get some chemistry with Phillip Rivers, he'll definitely be near the top 15, top 10 once again. At number 22, Cooper KUPP of the LA Rams. Cooper KUPP stood out last season, had his breakout year last season, and really showed that he can succeed in that slot position for Sean McVay's offense. That is a crucial spot for the Rams offense. Where he impressed me was his ability to run after the catch on big plays. That play versus the Saints really stands out. There's a couple plays versus the Browns that stand out. Cooper KUPP is a machine in the slot. And yes, there are some plays where he is wide open because McVay designs a really nice play, and I took that into account as well. But when he has to beat a guy with just pure route running, he can do that. He is not really an outside option, so that also docks him a little bit. But he has the hands, he has the route running. He may not have the pure speed, but he definitely has the quickness and the toughness that you need at this position. And he's a red zone monster. So Cooper KUPP comes in here at number 22. At number 21, the teammate of Cooper KUPP in LA, that is Robert Woods. Robert Woods is just slightly above Cooper KUPP, although it's very close, and you could argue either way for which one is better. But when you look at the stats, Robert Woods did put up better numbers last year, and I think where Robert Woods gets the edge is the fact that he plays everywhere. He plays on the outside, he plays on the inside, he plays slot, he plays outside, right? So he can do a little bit more. And I think where Robert Woods is also a little bit better is he's a little bit more experienced. He has a little bit more of the details down in his game, whether that's a little bit more crisp routes or the blocking in the run game. Robert Woods does a lot of little things that coaches really love, and I believe if this was a coach's list, he might even be higher. He's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the quickest guy in the world, but he is off the charts tough. He is really good in terms of running routes in the intermediate level and getting open and catching the football. Excellent hands in traffic. And Robert Woods just continuously is the big play guy for the Rams when it's 3rd and 10. And if you need a catch in a big situation, Jared Goff is going to Robert Woods. That's what separated him from KUPP, in my opinion. Maybe next year KUPP is better, but I have Woods better right now. At number 20, maybe my favorite receiver of all time, and that is Julian Edelman of the New England Patriots. Julian Edelman last season, while he did have some rough spots, he did come up with an injury late last year, which definitely hurt his production down the stretch. He did drop a lot of passes, and I totally hear those arguments. Julian Edelman, for the first time arguably in his career, was having to be the Patriots' #1 receiver with really no clear #2 option. And Julian Edelman was able to do that very well, and he was still able to come up with the big catches. He was still able to separate from defensive backs. He took on the double teams consistently week after week after week and was still making big plays even when injured. That just speaks to Edelman's craft and how hard he works in the offseason during the year to get his routes down, and he is definitely one of the best route runners in the game. He has phenomenal chemistry with Tom Brady, or formerly phenomenal chemistry with Tom Brady, as he's now moved on to Tampa Bay. It's gonna kind of suck for me not seeing that connection anymore, because it certainly was one of the best in the game. Whenever they needed a big play in a key situation, in a clutch situation, Edelman was certainly there to make it, as you've seen in the playoffs year after year after year. This guy's just so consistent, so tough, so durable that he has to be in the top 20. And I understand he's not the outside threat, but when you're talking about inside slot route runners, I don't think it gets any better than Julian Edelman. At number 19, DeVante Parker of the Miami Dolphins. Parker finally, and I mean finally, The Rock has come back. DeVante Parker finally broke out. I mean, it's been a really long time. Fantasy experts have been saying it's this year, DeVante Parker is going to break out. This year, no, maybe next year, this year. Finally, and I think it was the season that nobody really gave him any credit. Nobody was like hyping him up. It finally happened. The post-hype sleeper classic. DeVante Parker finally broke out. And it was like he had all the tools. You know, you saw it last year. He had the speed, he had the height, he had the size, he had the hands, he had everything. But for whatever reason, he couldn't put it on the field. And finally, in a contract year, he showed up and he made plays. And he made plays everywhere on the field, whether that was short, whether that was intermediate, whether that was deep, whether that was a deep one-on-one, whether that was just separating from a DB, whether that was using his speed, quickness, and route running. Maybe it all came together this year with the experience in the game. Finally, it did. But he showed that even versus the best corners in the league, which he has to play regularly, versus Tre'Davious White 2 times a year, Gilmore 2 times a year, he was able to make plays, and that, to me, is a top 20 receiver in this game. At number 18, maybe one of the toughest players in all of football, and that is Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is just tough. That's the #1 thing that comes to mind. He is excellent, and I mean excellent after the catch. He breaks tackles regularly. He makes people miss very often, and that is what you need from an inside slot receiver. And not only can Landry play in the inside, the slot, but also he could play on the outside. I think that's where he's slightly better than an Edelman, along with being more in his physical prime than an Edelman at this point in his age. But Landry can also play on the outside. He can run routes there. He was the go-to guy regularly over even in Odell in a lot of situations, because I think he has more of the chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And I think in the offense that they do run, he's asked to have more catches in bigger situations, kind of like the Adam Thielen to the Stefon Diggs in Minnesota as of late. I feel like Landry is just good everywhere. You know, he's not the downfield threat that a lot of other guys are, but from short to intermediate, it doesn't get much better than Landry. And when you're giving him the ball on a reverse or a run play or a screen, it's very difficult to take that guy down, and he'll make a play and get those yards after catch. So Landry is certainly a top 20 receiver to me. He's not a game changer, but he's just a consistent force, a consistent guy that you need to watch for on every snap, because if you don't, he's going to burn you, and it's going to be basically 1,000 cuts for your defense. At number 17, DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers found their young bright star at the wide receiver position, DJ Moore. When he came out in the draft, I immediately saw the ability in the open field. I immediately saw the same traits that we see from Jarvis Landry. But I think the thing that separates a DJ Moore from a Landry is the fact that not only Moore can do what Landry does underneath, but he also brings that down the field. DJ Moore can catch the football one-on-one deep for 40 yards. He can burn a guy deep down the field, but he can also be that after the catch, like running back-esque type of guy in the screen game on reverses and different things of that nature within their Carolina offense. Moore is now going to move into a new offense, so I'm intrigued to see what he does. But whether it's in the slot or outside, Moore has proven that he can be the #1 option for Carolina and a bright young receiver in this game. The top receiver in the very good tier at number 16 is Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. Tyler Lockett, I don't think gets enough credit for how good he actually is, because he does play for Seattle with Russell Wilson, and we've seen many receivers come to Seattle, very much like Julian Edelman and the Patriots and Tom Brady, to the point of where like it's just replace, like continue to recycle guys. Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, same guy, right? Well, no. Tyler Lockett is a downfield option, which is why he's so good with Russell Wilson. When it's a scramble drill, Tyler Lockett is going to get open because he's so quick, he's so fast, he's very smart, and has an excellent chemistry with Russell Wilson that he's eventually going to find himself open. And you saw last year that not only is Lockett like this fast guy that he's been labeled as, like just he runs straight, he runs posts, whatever, he gets open, but he could also, in that scramble drill, make an incredible toe tap sideline catch or make a catch in between two defenders in a big situation, contested or just getting hit. And that's something that a small, not very big, not very like stocky type of receiver is not known for. Like Tyler Lockett is skinny. Tyler Lockett is not exactly the profile for a possession receiver, but he showed you last year that not only can he go down the field and make those plays, but he can also make those plays when Russell Wilson needs that 3rd and 10 or he needs that sideline catch. Lockett has become that complete receiver to allow himself to be rated this high. Moving into the nearly elite tier at number 15 is Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen right now is one of my favorite receivers in the league because I absolutely think that people are still sleeping on him, and I absolutely think he has one of the most complete games in the NFL today. I think the only thing that you could say about Adam Thielen that he is lacking, which is perhaps why he's not a top 10 receiver, is last year he was hurt, so we weren't able to see him all year long put up the numbers. I think if he played all year, he would be in the top 10. And number 2, he doesn't have elite speed. But outside of that, I mean, Thielen gets open regularly versus single or double teams. He is incredible in the slot, but I think the thing that people don't realize about Thielen, or perhaps they don't see enough of him do because they don't watch the Vikings enough, is they don't see him go down the field. They just label him as a slot white receiver, and they don't really see him make those plays down the field one-on-one in contested situations. But that's completely incorrect. Adam Thielen is great down the field when they ask him to do that. And I think there is a reason that they were able to get rid of Stefon Diggs. Not only was he an issue, but Thielen has shown that he can go down the field, whether it's one-on-one in those contested situations, making an incredible grab, or just beating the guy with a savvy route or move to separate on a double move. Adam Thielen can really be that downfield guy or the slot guy. So to me, he has that complete game. He has the hands. He has the route running. He seems like a very polished type of receiver, and he is and has been, even with Diggs there, the #1 option in Minnesota. So at number 15, I have Adam Thielen. At number 14, I couldn't put this guy any lower than this. I'm sorry. AJ Green is number 14. AJ Green did not play last year, and I honestly don't care because when AJ Green plays, he is probably a top 5 receiver. And I don't think he's going to be that anymore, so that's why I probably docked him a little bit. I do think he will be better than some of these guys I put ahead of him, but it's just like, will this guy be healthy? Will this guy ever be the same? And that's the questions that went through my head. But when AJ Green is on the field, he's a Hall of Fame talent. He's a special player. He's a special receiver. And he did it with not a very great supporting cast, an average quarterback for much of his career, and he regularly put up 1,000 yards. He regularly mossed the best defenses in the league. Just ask Raven fans. AJ Green is an incredible player, especially one-on-one in contested situations. There's none better. He has great leaping ability, great height, size. He has a great ability to box you out and get inside on a corner. And no, he's never been the fastest guy, but he is pretty fast. He's not quite Julio fast, but he's really dang good. And AJ Green hopefully comes back and shows you that he's still that Hall of Fame player that he was before. At number 13, Allen Robinson. This one might be the shocker of the list because I know a lot of people, they kind of have Allen Robinson off the radar. Since he left Jacksonville, since he had that amazing year with Blake Bortles of all quarterbacks, Allen Robinson has not quite garnered the respect that he probably should. I mean, Allen Robinson was actually rated as the #1 receiver on reception perception from Matt Harmon. That considers route running. That considers separation. That considers separation versus man versus zone, getting open. And Allen Robinson was #1, which is the essential skill for all receivers in the NFL. And the Chicago Bears truly have a #1 option now. The problem with Allen Robinson is he's never played with a good quarterback. He kind of reminds me at this point of the Larry Fitzes and the Andre Johnsons, where they were excellent receivers, and maybe Robinson isn't on that level yet, but he needs an opportunity to play with just a guy that has accuracy. Just put it in his vicinity because he's open a lot. And if you can get it there, he'll make a play and he'll be that 1,400 receiver that you want for that #1 option in Chicago. But he's excellent, short, intermediate, and deep. He has an all-around game. He has very good hands. He's not a blazing speed kind of guy, but he just finds a way to get open with his route running and his physical tools. Allen Robinson is probably a borderline top 10 guy, and I have him here at number 13. At number 12, arguably the best deep receiver in the game in terms of route running, that is Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs graded in many places as the best downfield receiver in 2019, and now he is a member of the Buffalo Bills and going to be teaming up with the cannon of an arm of Josh Allen. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to see. But Stefon Diggs, he's had that drama off the field, and that maybe I actually did dock him for that because I just can't stand these guys that they're just for no reason disrupting the flow of a team. And I do really feel like Diggs has been that for Minnesota. So I wanted to dock him a little bit, but he is incredibly talented. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Yes, he doesn't really have the stats that jump off the page, but that's mostly due to the fact that Minnesota has been a run-first offense, just like Adam Thielen. Although Adam Thielen put up more receptions, Diggs has put up the yards. Diggs is the downfield guy. He's the big play option. And Diggs, I feel, has the game where he could play outside, he could play inside. I feel like he could be a great route runner from the slot as well, but he's never really been asked to do that as much as Thielen. And now in Buffalo, I think that's where he could take his game to the next level. Being that Buffalo runs similar to a New England-esque offense, Diggs will be asked to play more of a short to intermediate role, as well as adding that deep option to the offense. And I think that's where you're going to see Diggs' game in terms of statistics and production go to the next level, because he's going to be able to run those routes from the inside and the underneath, but also down the field. He has speed. He has great route running ability. He has great quickness, stop on a dime quickness, and everything really that makes a really top 10 type of guy. He just hasn't been able to put up the production in the offense that he's been in Minnesota. At number 11, Keenan Allen of the LA Chargers. Keenan Allen is not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not the tallest, he's not the quickest, he doesn't have the greatest leaping ability, but he's just really darn good at playing receiver. And the biggest reason is because he is possibly the most unique, crafty route runner in the NFL today. He's certainly in the top 5, maybe top 3 in terms of running routes, purely the craft of receiver, and Keenan Allen is excellent at that. Keenan Allen is just so unique on his releases off the line of scrimmage, making his routes look different every single time on every single different play. He kind of reminds me of like Stevie Johnson, if you remember him, of the Buffalo Bills, but I believe Allen has taken even his game to the next level. And Allen has also benefited from better quarterback play with Phillip Rivers. The question with Allen now is, can he take his game and what he's been able to do in his production and also do that with multiple different quarterbacks? And I think that's where Allen will be able to prove whether he was a little bit of a product of a great quarterback in Phillip Rivers, or if he is just special. And now he's going to be able to do that with Tyrod and be able to do that with Herbert. And Keenan Allen, I think, has the skills to do that because he just is so good in every area of the field. You know, you need a short play for 5 yards, Allen will pick that up. Do you need a 10-yard play? Allen will be able to do that. Do you need to get a touchdown in the red zone? Allen can do that as well. He just has a very complete skill set, and I think he is one of the more underappreciated guys because he doesn't really wow you with his size or with his speed. He is just really good. That's it. Entering the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL today, at number 10, I have Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Godwin really, and I mean really, broke out last season for Jameis Winston and the Bucs and Bruce Arians' offense. I think Godwin was put in the perfect position, and now he has Tom Brady throwing him the football. So you have to think that he's only going to get better. He's only going to become more detailed. He's only going to be a better hard worker. He's only going to be more refined in his game overall. Godwin plays everywhere. He plays on the outside in 2 receiver sets with Evans. He plays in the slot. He can do basically everything, whether that's short, intermediate, deep, whether it's contested or it's just separating in the intermediate. That's where he's really, really good. And I think the area, if you don't watch Godwin a lot, the area that stands out to me is the after the catch. Godwin is really, really good at breaking the first tackle and making a run after the catch. And I think he's going to only get better and thrive with Tom Brady because this is the type of receiver that Tom Brady has really utilized in the past. And that has become his favorite target, even more so than a Mike Evans-esque type of receiver. Godwin, the only question is, was it a fluke? Or will he be even better next year? Can he be consistent? Can he bring longevity to the table? And if he can, I think he's only going to move up this list. At number 9, the touchdown leader from a year ago, that is Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay, for my money, might be the best contested catch wide receiver in the NFL right now. Kenny Golladay is special when the ball is in the air. If it's in his vicinity, if it's within his wingspan, he will be able to catch the football. He'll be able to make a play. He'll be able to go down the field one-on-one and make that catch. Or if Matt Stafford threads it, he's going to be able to catch that ball in the red zone, in the end zone for a big play. Kenny Golladay is not the fastest guy, but he utilizes his height, he utilizes his wingspan to make a lot of huge plays for Detroit. And that's what makes him so difficult because he's not open. A lot of the times Kenny Golladay is not open. But for corners, that can be almost more frustrating because he is going to be one-on-one with you and just beat you to the ball every time. And Stafford is like the perfect quarterback for him because Stafford can thread the needle. He can throw that ball really hard, zip it in there in a tight window. And Golladay, if it's just within his wingspan, as I said, is going to be more often than not catching that football and making a play. So if Kenny Golladay actually had Stafford last year for the whole season, he probably would have caught like 13, 14, 15, 16 touchdowns last year, and we would probably be talking about him more, but he's still really, really good and really, really young. If he could get another great year, he might even catapult himself into the top 5. At number 8, and the top receiver in the nearly elite tier, is Amari Cooper of the Dallas Cowboys. I really love Amari Cooper's game. I know that some people don't necessarily love Amari Cooper because they see him as soft or they don't see him as tough enough as a wide receiver. But if you really are a fan of the wide receiver position and you're really a fan of watching these wide receivers go to work, it doesn't get more awesome to watch than Amari Cooper, because Amari Cooper could do everything you want from a number one receiver. And there is a reason that Dak Prescott was here when he didn't have Amari Cooper and is now here with Amari Cooper. And that's because Amari Cooper is one of the best at route running. He's one of the best at releases off the line of scrimmage. He's one of the best at separation from a defensive back. If you play him one-on-one and your name's not Stephon Gilmore or Jalen Ramsey or one of these elite corners in the league, you are regularly going to get beat ridiculously, embarrassingly bad, because Amari Cooper can embarrass you with his quick jab feet and his ability to change direction. And then on top of that, he can just straight up run by you. Cooper is deceptively very fast, and that makes him a downfield option and also an excellent intermediate option because it scares DBs. He can run comebacks all day if he wanted to, but Dallas just utilizes him everywhere. And with the Dallas offense, I'm really intrigued to see how he gets even better with another year in the Kellen Moore, and now with the McCarthy coming into the locker room. It's going to be very fascinating because Cooper, he would regularly just be asked to run by a person, and now he's going to be at least helped out a little bit more within the scheme. So that's going to be awesome. I think Cooper has all the talent to be a top 3, top 5 receiver. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent, and he can be that. Is Odell Beckham Jr. Odell is going to get some heat in the comments because I know, first off, a lot of people don't like him. I understand that. And number 2, he didn't have a great year last year from a statistical perspective, but I will let you know that he was hurt for basically the entire season and still put up 1,000 yards, even with a pretty serious injury. So that being said, that's how special Odell is. And yes, he had some drops during the year. If you ask defensive coaches, who do you not want to cover? Odell is probably always going to come up within the top 4 to 5 names that you mentioned, maybe even the top 2 or 3, because Odell is scary. Odell is legitimately, after the catch, one of the 2 to 3 best in the league. He can burn you deep regularly with his great speed, and he has phenomenal feet and route running capability. But Odell, I feel, is going to get back on track this year as a top 3 guy, top 5 guy, because he certainly has all the talent. If you're talking about talented receivers, he's in the top 3. There's no doubt about it. But it's just the production that holds him back from being in the top 5, top 3. And he's already on pace. If he can get back to where he was, being that Hall of Fame guy, I really hope we see it, because he's one of the best personalities and best names in the sport right now. And for him to be playing at his elite level where he should be, that will only help the sport. But again, going back to his game, he's great everywhere. He's the best on slants in the league. He's quick, he's fast, he has great hands. There's basically no flaw to Odell's game. And that's why even on a bad year, he is still a top 7 receiver in the league. At number 6 is Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you're talking about one player that's going to benefit the most from the media attention and the popularity of the Bucs with Tom Brady, it's going to be Mike Evans. Not only is Mike Evans going to have the GOAT throwing him the football, but he's also going to have those primetime games to finally be able to showcase his skills, to finally be a household name. And Mike Evans has been at this for a very long time, longer than you would actually expect. And he's put up 1,000 yards after 1,000 yards after 1,000 yards. He is probably one of the most unique receivers in the game, because he is basically a tight end in a receiver's body. He's 6'5", 6'6", with incredibly long arms, and he can go up there and just moss people regularly. And the wingspan allows him to catch a lot of footballs that a lot of average receivers just can't catch or get their hands on. And I think a lot of times with Jameis Winston, he actually bailed Jameis Winston out with a lot of amazing grabs. And if it was just in his vicinity, which Winston would just chuck it up, Evans would make a play. But imagine now getting a more accurate passer. Imagine now getting a guy that's actually going to put you in better positions to make a play. And that is where Mike Evans is going to see his game go from here to there, and not only be one of the 6 or 7 best, but potentially even the 4 or 5 best, where some of these other receivers that I'm going to talk about a little bit higher have had those quarterbacks and have had the consistency. And yes, Mike Evans sometimes puts up a bad game. Sometimes he doesn't show up. But I think that more had to do with his team, not necessarily his skill set, not necessarily his skills. I think you're going to see Mike Evans, that consistency from the production and statistical perspective is only going to get better. Entering the top 5 at number 5, Davante Adams of the Green Bay Packers. Davante Adams put up ridiculous numbers last year in a very limited amount of games. And not only did he do that, but he did it as the number 1 and only option in the passing attack for the Green Bay Packers in 2019. And he did it seeing double coverage. He did it seeing the best corners in the game. He did it with, again, an offense that is very simplistic from a passing game perspective. Ron Gilmore called Davante Adams the best release in the game, the best guy off the line of scrimmage in the league right now. He has great route running ability, incredible change of pace, and he can lull you into a move here and there. Like mid route, he's going to be able to make you miss and then get open and separate. But Adams isn't the fastest, but Adams is just, he has his route running craft down to a science. And his chemistry with Aaron Rodgers on back shoulder fades, in the red zone, on third down, on those outs and those comebacks, it's just off the charts. I mean, every single time you know the ball's going there and he still makes a play. And that's how you truly know that a receiver is top 5 in the league. The top receiver in the superstar tier at number 4 is the new Arizona Cardinal, the former Texan, DeAndre Hopkins. D-Hop is one of the best receivers in the league in any given year, is capable of being the best. DeAndre Hopkins, I have always given a little bit of a tough time for not being the best in terms of separating from defensive backs, not having the big play capability of some of the other receivers in the game. But Hopkins really impressed me last year with his craft underneath and intermediate, his route running underneath and intermediate. He has really become more refined and creative in that regard. And he, every time, comes up with the big play. Every time that Watson needed a play on third and intermediate, he would come up with the catch. He would find a way to get open. And I think no other game really resembles that more than the game versus the Patriots when he was one-on-one with Gilmore, and they pretty much knew it was one-on-one, him and Gilmore, the best corner in the game. And Hopkins was able to win a slant inside versus the best corner, defensive player in the year, and catch the football. That is special. That's Hall of Fame. Receivers today are expected to make those plays when you're upper echelon, and Hopkins did that. And did that game after game for the Texans. It's going to be really fascinating to see how they replace him and see what he can do for Kyler Murray now in Arizona. But I think Hopkins may not be the big play sexy receiver, but he has every tool that makes him almost uncoverable or unstoppable because you know he's going to get his eventually. And that is a top 4 receiver. Now, in my game breaker tier for the wide receiver position in the NFL, the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL at number 3, which you could argue number 1. Certainly, you could argue number 1. Tyreek Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason you could argue Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the league is because he is the one that keeps defensive coordinators up at night perhaps more than anyone else. And that is due to Tyreek Hill's insane, off the charts, Olympic speed. Tyreek Hill is maybe the fastest player in NFL history and has the greatest ability to accelerate, stop, and go at the receiver position that I've possibly ever seen in my entire life. Hill is maybe the best downfield threat, but he also can catch the football underneath and make people look absolutely silly in a way that Barry Sanders would, or one of the most elusive runners in the game would. That is Tyreek Hill. I think if he was a running back, maybe he doesn't have the size, but he would still probably be a Pro Bowl player because he's just that elusive and that fast. Tyreek Hill is incredible, man. I don't care that he is not the best route runner. I don't care that he doesn't have the best hands. But he is pretty good at route running because of that speed and that quickness. He's going to absolutely burn you all day long. And just, he is the ultimate game breaker. That's why he's in this tier, and that's why he's in the top 3. Number 2, the man that broke the reception record, the all-time record in a single season. That is Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. Michael Thomas, to me, is the best short and intermediate receiver in the NFL. There is no denying it. I don't care if you want to meme him and call him a slant guy. He does everything. This guy makes people look absolutely dumb when he runs routes underneath one-on-one. You cannot cover him within 10 yards with one person. You need to double team him. You need to get physical at the line and have somebody on the left and somebody on the right. You need to have somebody over top and somebody underneath. You need to do something to neutralize this guy, because it is going to be even hard then if you cover him with 2 people. Michael Thomas is that good. He is that great of a route runner. He is Hall of Fame status in terms of the hands, in terms of the toughness, in terms of the physical nature of his game. I think that's the area where he is really underestimated. Is his strength is off the charts good for a receiver. He is like in the TO range of like just purely very strong. He can box you out, get inside of you. That's why he is that slant guy. That's why he can get inside. Not only can he combine that physical ability, but he also can combine the patience of a great route runner and the timing of a great underneath receiver and the smarts and intelligence of a slot guy. Like, Michael Thomas can do all of that, and Michael Thomas is the best at all of it, to be honest with you. And that's why he has so many dang receptions. There's a reason. And not only that, I think where I would say he's probably a little overrated, he's not the greatest downfield guy. He doesn't really go downfield. They don't really ask him to do that. And he is in the Sean Payton offense. And sometimes a lot of his catches, he is wide open. There's just no other way to put it. He's just wide open because Sean Payton is really good. And you have to take that into account. So for me, I think Michael Thomas is the number 2 and not the number 1, because I don't think he's the game breaker that number 1 is. I don't think he could just straight up line up on the outside and burn you the way number 1 can. But in terms of underneath and intermediate, he is the best. And he, you could argue, is the most consistent weapon in the league. And that may be why you put him at number 1. At number 1, my number 1 receiver in the league is Julio Jones, still. And the reason is because I think more than any receiver in the league, Atlanta just asked Julio to line up on the outside and just run his route. They never say, hey, Julio, we're going to put you in motion so that you can get a free release. None of that. You know, Michael Thomas might get that. You know, guys in good offensive systems may get that. Atlanta's just like, Julio, we don't need you to do that. You're just gonna bully this guy with your strength, or you're just going to beat him with your speed, or you're going to be able to find a way within your route to make an amazing catch. It doesn't matter. You know, you could double team him. You could beat him up at the line. You could back off. Like, any way you want to play him. Like, he eventually is going to make an amazing play. Yes, he's probably not the route runner that Thomas is from short to intermediate, but he does not have a flaw in his game. Like, he can beat you deep and make a big play there from 50 yards out. He can moss you in the end zone. He can beat you underneath and catch a football on a screen and go for 50, 60 yards. He has speed off the charts. He has size off the charts. He has jumping, leaping ability. He has excellent hands. Like, Julio doesn't have any flaws. And to me, Michael Thomas, he's missing that deep part of his game. Julio might not be at the same level as Michael Thomas underneath, but he could do everything else and other things that Michael simply can't do. And stripping stats away from that, if I'm picking one guy that I'd rather have the guy that's not put in those positions that Thomas is. I'd rather have the guy that can just line up and win. And that's Julio Jones. That's why he's at number 1. Those are my top 32 receivers right now going into the 2020 NFL season. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike the like button. Subscribe to the channel for more. It's Mitch. Let me know in the comments what you think of my top 32 receivers in the NFL right now. Peace.